Welcome back to AfricaCom 2018, where we are shaping Africa's digital future. With me is Biola Alabi, the founder and MD of Biola Alabi Media. A very, very good afternoon and welcome to our space.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Can we just start with your nomination and just brag about that for the moment? What does it feel to be nominated for Entrepreneur CXO of the Year?
It's really, it's humbling. It's exciting. I can't believe it's happening. So what happened when I saw it? I was like, oh my God! I mean, who nominated me? So I'm really excited to be here. This is my third year coming to this conference, and to be recognized as the thought leader in my field is really honor. It's an honor, and I'm humbling.
Congratulations, and we wish you all
Thank
the best.
you. Keep on voting.
I can't show any bias, so that's all I will say.
It's okay. You can vote though.
You were participating in the Africa Goes Global content distribution across the world a little bit earlier today. What were some of the key takeaways for you?
One of the key takeaways for me is that the world is looking for good stories. One of the most important things is not about creating a story that you think will work for this audience. It's almost like telling the story that you want to tell and the world would find you. And I think that's what's happening with so many different stories across the world, is that people are telling the best story they can tell and the people are finding them. The second thing is that consumers still need to find the content that we have. Consumers don't know where to find content, how to find content, and I think that's really where distribution can play a huge role. And I think one of the things that just really came through is that the idea of content being omni-platform just became clearer to me, because consumers don't care where this content is. They will find it and they want to watch it on as many platforms as possible. So those are my three takeaways.
And speaking primarily to the last two, how do we then use the digital space in Africa to make sure that our content is seen and appreciated not only on the continent, but across the world?
I think that's one of the amazing things about being here, is looking for technology partners, looking for people to think differently in the way they've done technology before. So a lot of times people come into a market because they've done things in Western Europe, Eastern Europe, or in North America, and they want to do the same thing on the continent. And I think what we are trying to do is help people understand some of the unique needs of the continent, some of the different ways we have to tailor our packages, and some of the different ways that we have to empower streaming on the continent. And sometimes, how are we going to pay for it? So that was actually another big conversation we had, is who's going to pay for this content and how we're going to pay for it, and how we're going to make sure it gets to the consumer. So I think those are some of the things we're here to figure out and find the right technology partners to make that happen.
On a bigger level, what are those key challenges that we need to overcome in Africa to help us realize what we've just spoken about?
One of the things we keep on talking about in my space, which is the broadcasting space, is that we do need to do digital transition. We need to do digital transition to digital TV. This is going to be really one of the biggest opportunities on the continent, and every country has to figure out a way to do this in the most effective and efficient way. We need to transition off of some of this analog bandwidth that we have, so that we can open up more spectrum that can be available. Number one, that spectrum will contribute to income in the country, but also it makes us a real technology continent, which means there's going to be more bandwidth to do more broadband, to do more streaming, to do more video. And I think that's really where we need to get at. We need to get at the leadership and regulatory stuff that needs to be addressed. And we're hoping, once again, that these forums like this provide that opportunity.
Now, technology obviously is an important way for us to be able to realize this, but at the end of the day, content is king.
Yes.
What advice would it give to producers who are producing stories, South African and African stories that are ready to be sold and to be seen by the world? What can they do differently to make them stand out?
So I know content is king, but I feel like distribution is becoming neck and head. They're sort of like going neck and neck. And so distribution is really important. We got to get distribution right so people can get this content. But the most important thing is for people to start to develop very strong stories, unique stories. We have some of the best talents behind the camera. Now we got to get back into the writer's room and start to develop the best scripts we can. I think that's really the advice I have for producers and writers and people that are trying to create and tell African stories. But the other thing is to also get out of the dogmatic ways in which we've seen story being told. And so we should open up our minds to 5-minute stories, 10-minute stories, 30-minute stories. Let's start looking at unconventional, untraditional ways of telling stories.
Now, you're becoming a stalwart in the industry. You've been a television anchor, a producer, you're an executive in the industry.
Yes.
What's your secret to longevity in this industry?
I think the key is just I love learning. I love being open to different experiences. I mean, the first time I went in front of a camera, I mean, I'd been an executive, I'd been a producer, I'd been a production assistant, I'd never been in front of a camera. And the day they were like, you're going to be in front of a camera, I'm like, no, this is not something. And people are like, just try it. And I think as long as you always approach this industry with a curious mind, because there's so much to learn, there's so much happening technology-wise. And so I think that's really been one of the biggest things is open to learning, being curious, staying curious, and actually taking risks.
Well, I certainly hope AfricaCom 2018 will continue to feed your desire for learning. Thank you very much for joining us here.
Thank you so much for having me.